All right, well, we've talked about Chapter 7s, Chapter 13 bankruptcies, and Leslie, one of the questions that I want to ask you on this episode is what are the steps that someone needs to take once they come in here, talk to you? What do they need to do to file bankruptcy?
Okay, Michael, the first thing that the client is going to have to do, whether it's a 7 or a 13, is you have to take a class, a debtor's education class. You
Now, is
do
this
it
an
on,
in-person class or
oh, you do that online,
okay?
and we can give you different options to choose from, and they're very inexpensive. $14 or $15 per person. And when you take the class, at the end, they'll say, who do we send it to? And you give them our email, and then we'll have that certificate of completion. I can't do anything on your case until you take that debtor education class. Then the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to meet with my bankruptcy paralegal and sometimes with myself, and he's going to go through all these forms. I know it's going to be feeling like you're giving up your firstborn child, but all the information is really, really important to your case and to the bankruptcy court. So you need to complete all of that information and turn it into the firm. Then what happens is we have what's called a meeting of creditors, and that occurs at the federal building downtown. And what happens is the trustee for your case, whether it's a Chapter 7 or a Chapter 13, is going to be there, and he or she is going to just ask you questions about the documents that you filed. It's not a situation that's designed to get you, it's just a formality to make sure that you've listed all of your assets, all of your debts, and that the paperwork has been filled out
And
properly.
if I could just ask you one question, you said you feel like you're having to give up your firstborn child. I know it's a lot of information intensive stuff that they have to provide. What kind of problems can come from the bankruptcy when the meeting of creditors happens? What kind of problems can come if they leave out information?
Okay.
If
And sometimes that happens. You don't think of everything at the first go round, although I really urge you to be as truthful as possible because there are federal criminal penalties for not being honest and forthright on your bankruptcy schedules and statements. But normally what happens if there is another asset that you forgot, we can just disclose that at the meeting of creditors, and then we'll amend your schedules or statements. So that's really not a big problem. In most cases. Now, if it happens consistently, then the trustee is going to get upset with you and may recommend to the judge that you don't get your bankruptcy. But I've only seen that happen one time. So after you have the meeting of creditors, then it depends on whether you have a Chapter 7 or Chapter 13 as to what happens next. In a Chapter 7, if you don't have any non-exempt assets, the trustee will report to the court that there's nothing for him to take and sell to pay your unsecured creditors. And within 30 days or so, you will get a notice that you have received a discharge and your case is going to be closed. In a Chapter 13, it's a little different because you have to then satisfy the terms of the plan that you have made with the trustee. And in that plan, you've told the trustee how he or she is to divide the money that you are giving the trustee. So much to your house, and so much to your car, and so much to a student loan, for example. And then the trustee pays according to the plan. And if you are making your plan payments every month the way that you're supposed to, you're not going to have any problems.
so, what happens if you start missing those payments, the plan payments?
Yes, and that happens sometimes too because you lose your job or an emergency comes up. The sooner that you let me know that that has happened, the sooner that I can inform the court that there is a problem and we can work towards modifying your plan to make up for that lost payment or that skipped payment. Now, if it happens that you miss one payment and then another payment and then another payment, the trustee is going to ask the court to dismiss your case. Now, depending on why the case was dismissed, many times the judge will say it is dismissed without prejudice, and that just means you can file again. without any repercussions. But sometimes if this is your third bankruptcy or your fourth bankruptcy, the judge will say, I'm dismissing this case with prejudice, and that means, unfortunately, you can't file bankruptcy again for 180 days. So you might lose your house, you might lose your car, because there's no relief that can be granted because of how many times you have invoked the protection of the bankruptcy court.
So if you've already gone through the bankruptcy process and you're making payments and you miss some payments, make sure to reach out to us, text the number at the bottom of the screen, and or message the Facebook page. Let Leslie know as soon as possible if something comes up and you need to miss payments or something like that, so she can let the trustee know and you don't lose your house or your car.
And then, as to wrap it up, at the end of your plan period, whether that's 36 months or 60 months, or even if you're in a Chapter 7, you have to take a second class, and that is called a debt management class, because they're trying to teach you how to manage your money, how to make a budget, how not to have to do this again. And that class is a little longer, about half an hour, 45 minutes, but again, you do it at the computer, and they'll print out a certificate of completion.
Now, if the client does not have a computer, we have access here, right, for the client to take the class?
Absolutely. Some people do not own a computer, or they don't have access to a computer. So we have available here in the office a computer that we can set up for you here in the conference room, and it'll be nice and quiet, and you can go take the class. And the same thing, you just click the button about who to send it to, and we will get that certificate of completion and upload it to the court.